This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Severe healthcare worker shortages are hitting the province's largest emergency room. It's forced Eastern Health to put out a plea for help to all staff due to an immediate need for nurses at the Health Sciences Centre in St. John's. But as the CBC's Heather Gillis reports, Eastern Health says it's a crisis averted for now.
Our staffing complement will be stabilized for this weekend.
With only half the nurses needed for the weekend, the emergency room at the Health Sciences Centre was facing an emergency of its own. Yesterday, the health authority sent out this memo, begging staff to take on extra shifts or overtime. There was an immediate need for registered nurses, LPNs, and PCAs.
So we did put out a voluntary call.
Debbie Walsh is a vice president with Eastern Health. She says on day shift, the Health Sciences ER needs 14 registered nurses.
We started with 8, so we're now up to almost the 14.
Yep.
And that's for the day shift, and for the night shift, we were down to 6 staff. We need 12, and now we're up to almost 11. I think there's confirmation today we'll have 11 and still continue to work on that. And the numbers are very similar for Sunday.
It all comes after a crisis at St. John's emergency rooms last weekend. Non-emergency patients were asked to stay away. The situation escalated the province's emergency healthcare crisis to now include the province's largest hospital.
We're still hemorrhaging nurses out of the system.
The Nurses Union president says there are 19 vacant RN positions out of 54 in total at the Health Sciences ER. Yvette Coffey says staff volunteering to work this weekend will take care of patients who are stuck in the ER waiting to be admitted to other units in the hospital.
But this would allow the emergency room nurses to do what they need to do, especially with the long wait times in the emergency department and the offload delays.
NAPE President Jerry Earle says ER staff need specialized training, even the LPNs and PCAs his union represents. He says the weekend situation exposes the crisis in the emergency rooms.
We cannot operate emergency service in that fashion. We know what's happening in rural Newfoundland, and here now the largest tertiary centre in the province is actually putting out a call for staffing.
Like last weekend, Eastern Health is urging patients who aren't experiencing emergency to stay away from the emergency rooms in St. John's. Instead, they say try first to call 811, go to a walk-in clinic, or see a family doctor. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Staying with healthcare, we have an update on those mammography reviews. Eastern, Western, and Labrador Grenfell Health have found 6 mammogram patients needing follow-up so far. The health authorities say they've reviewed 20% of the over 10,000 images. Those images were originally viewed on substandard monitors. Central Health says it's found 9 possible errors so far. The health authorities say they'll call patients whose breast cancer screening tests show possible discrepancies. They'll also contact their doctors and send them a letter. Well, activity at the Come By Chance refinery is expected to ramp up next week following a flash fire on September 2nd that injured 8 workers. But as the CBC's Terry Roberts reports, life may never be the same again for some of those impacted by the industrial accident.
5 of the 8 workers injured by the sudden ignition of a flash fire 2 weeks ago are still in hospital, being treated for burns and other injuries.
They're not doing interviews. This is a difficult time for them. But family members of some of those injured tell me that the fire will likely leave scars, both physically and emotionally, that will last a lifetime.
Brea Renewables leadership met with the injured workers and their families and revealed the details of the internal investigation into the fire. The larger workforce of more than 600 will get a briefing early next week during a series of meetings. The company will also spell out a safe return to work plan during those sessions.
Mid to late week, we would expect some return to light duties at the site after we've shared our plans for return to work and got feedback from the workers at the site.
An investigation by the province's Occupational Health and Safety Division is continuing, and a stop work order in the area where the fire occurred is still in place. Brea took over the refinery last fall and is spending hundreds of millions to convert it into a renewable fuels producer. The company had hoped to begin operations this fall, but that's now under review.
We're going to reassess the project schedules once we see how it's going. But right now, we're just focused on getting the workers back to the site and in a safe manner.
It's been 2 weeks since the fire and the shutdown of the site. All through this, workers have continued to receive their regular paychecks. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
A little bit of everything today out there in the metro area. Taking a look at the live shot right now. A little bit of sun peeking through. We do have some clouds and some showers that are working their way across eastern areas of the island as well. But right now we're sitting at about 15 degrees. Winds gusting around, well, winds are out of the west around 37 kilometers per hour, but we are seeing some gusts much higher than that. And the reason for that is this area of low pressure. It is going to essentially park itself offshore where it is now and stay there for the weekend, with some bands of showers continuing pretty much right through the weekend. We're already seeing some showers as the ones I was talking about moving through right now, and we'll continue to see that as we head through the evening hours. But take a look at these wind gusts up across Labrador. 80 in Makovic, 72 kilometers per hour in Nain. And as we head through the next couple of days, we are going to see these winds continue. They'll pick up across the island as well, gusting between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour for your Saturday and even into Sunday for parts of the province. I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, WestJet is suspending some flights in Atlantic Canada this fall and winter, including here in St. John's. It's part of the airline's move to focus its fleet in Western Canada. The airline is canceling routes between Halifax and Montreal late next month, and in January, more flights between Halifax to Ottawa and St. John's will be suspended. WestJet hasn't said if the suspended routes will return in the spring. And the City of St. John says it will be business as usual on Monday. September 19th has been declared a one-time holiday federally and provincially to mark the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. As we've reported, schools and government offices will close, but the province is leaving it up to businesses to decide if they'll remain open. All city services will be operating as normal on Monday, including recreation programs. The regular council meeting will also go ahead. Meanwhile, anyone wishing to sign the Book of Condolence at City Hall will have until the end of business Tuesday to do so. Well, a somber anniversary is being marked this weekend in Labrador. Tomorrow will be 1 year since Mark Russell and Joey Jenkins went missing off the coast of Mary's Harbour. The pair was last seen heading out to gather their fishing nets. Jenkins' partner is still calling for more search and rescue support. She says on the coast of Labrador, it's a necessity.
I would like to see a minimum of 2 stations, one on the north coast and one on the south coast. You know, it needs to be done. We shouldn't have to look for assistance from Nova Scotia or from Newfoundland. It shouldn't have to be that issue. And I mean, I know as a person sitting there on the wharf watching those aircrafts coming and then searching and then turning around and having to go elsewhere for fuel. They had to go back to the island to get fuel. So like it was just a very frustrating situation all around. There's something that's going to be done out of this tragedy. It can't just be a mourning. It can't just be a monument. It can't just be an anniversary wreath laid. Something more needs to come out of it. No other family should have to grieve like this. He was just such a genuine person. I've never met anybody that could give you a bad word about him. And that's probably the hardest part. I see the positive that's come from it. I see that boats are being outfitted with transmitters and things, and I see there's more people talking about it. I see that more people are pushing for search and rescue here or some kind of Coast Guard station. I see that people are wearing life jackets. It's a necessity. It's not a want. It's not frivolous. We don't just go out in a boat to play, we go out to make our living. We fish so that we can have food in our freezers for the winter. We hunt birds so we can have food in our fridge for the winter. We hunt seals so we can have food in our fridge for the winter. And how do we do all that? On the water.
Ottawa wants to help Canadians transition away from home heating oil and towards greener alternatives like electric heat pumps. The federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change made the $250 million announcement yesterday. About half of that federal funding is reserved for the East Coast. That's because 30% of homes in Atlantic Canada are still heated using furnace oil. The money will be doled out to provinces over the next 4 years and will focus on low-income households. The federal government says this initiative will also create new jobs in the clean energy sector.
By putting a price on pollution and helping households make the switch to cleaner, cheaper, reliable home heating right now, our government is making a positive and sustainable contribution instead of living in fear or denial. A world of reliable, clean, and affordable energy produced at home and supported by a vibrant, clean energy supply chain and good-paying, sustainable jobs. That's a win for Atlantic Canadians, a win for our environment.
Well, have you ever heard of Little Canada? It's a big Toronto attraction. It recreates the entire country on a tiny scale. There's Little Toronto, Little Quebec, and the East Coast is up next. Artists are in the province tonight trying to get a sense of this place before they shrink it down to size. Just have a look.
We're here to capture all of the East Coast, capture its essence, so we can create the most authentic miniature version of what we see.
It's been a long trip. We started in PEI. We're getting a real feel of what the cities and towns are like, and we're trying to just really capture the feeling of the East Coast.
Welcome to Little Canada.
Little Canada is a new tourist attraction that we're creating. We're making all of Canada in miniature form.
So it's everything you would see in the big Canada, just shrunk down to 87th scale. So everything is teeny tiny. There's little cars driving around and, you know, whole mountains fit inside a single room.
Oh, there's like a rooftop.
The challenge is definitely getting everything to fit in. As much as like we're doing miniatures and everything's tiny, it's still limited space, and so we really have to like pick and choose what we put in and what goes where and how things relate to each other, and being able to do an accurate representation and like an authentic representation while still having to work within these really tight constraints of space.
This is good for animations.
I build a lot of the tiny little structures, and I'm so excited to do all the small, colorful, cute little things.
It's so beautiful. I'm overwhelmed by how amazing the scenery is. My part at Little Canada is storytelling and high details, but the scenery is just incredible. Wow.
I think it's just really interesting seeing the scale of everything, because when you're looking at photos and stuff, you don't really like see the whole picture of like what everything is and how it all relates to each other.
I didn't think it was going to be as mountainy as it is. There's hills everywhere in St. John's, which I did not realize. Everything is a hill. After this, we're driving up to Deer Lake and we're going to Grossmorin. So I'm very excited to do the boat tour through Grossmorin. And then we're heading home after a long trip.
Oh, that's so neat, Little Grossmorin. And they're not just covering the island's east and west coast. The artists are also planning to recreate parts of northern Labrador and some outports in between, along with the rest of Atlantic Canada. Little Canada is hoping to have Little East Coast ready by this coming May. Well, a boat from Newfoundland went on quite the journey this past year, all by itself, right across the Atlantic Ocean. Jason Burton was towing this boat from Lumsden to Conception Bay for the Capelin fishery in June of last year when he and his crew discovered it was gone. Now, 14 months later, a volunteer organization that collects plastic waste from the coastline found the boat just last week off the shores of Norway.
Was upside down on a rock, and we tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. We were like 5 or 6 persons, but it was not possible to move it. So we had to wait for the full moon at Sunday and the maximum high tide, and then we were able to pull it off the rock with another boat. The sign we have never seen before. No Norwegian boat looked like that, and it was just amazing to see how far this boat has traveled. We have never found anything that big from that far before.
My mind was blown. Like, well, as soon as I seen the picture, I said, "Oh yeah, that's her, without doubt." But it was quite a distance, and further than that, like I could understand she was floating first with the air pocket in on her, but I thought after a while it was seized that she would eventually turn over and the air get out of her and she'd go to the bottom. But no, she survived it. The guys who found her are trying to either find a new owner for her, or I think they're going to try to redo her for herself to take part in that mission that they're doing over with the cleanup. She made her way where she wanted to be, I guess. She found her new home.
Well, if you've ever wondered what the office space right above this TV studio looks like here at the CBC, here's the behind-the-scenes look at our St. John's newsroom. Now, one of our videographers was doing drone training this week and captured this video of our colleagues in the newsroom there. Pretty neat. So many possibilities for beautiful shots around the city and the province. We'll be right back.
Yes, and the weather over the last couple of days has been iffy. We do have some cooler temperatures today. Unfortunately, they're going to stick around for the weekend. We're going to do the details coming up.
Well, it was the kind of day in St. John's where I felt like every time I looked out the window, I was going to see something different. One second I looked out, it was sunny. The next second, it was raining. Just back and forth all day long.
It definitely was. When the sun came out, though, it was beautiful.
Oh, so nice.
A bit windy this afternoon, too, which
Mhm.
is, I mean, cleared up the rain, I guess.
Take the
Dried it
good
off
with the
really
bad.
quick. Yeah, exactly. Temperatures say, though, a bit cooler than yesterday for sure. Let's take a look at those daytime highs across the board. 15 degrees in St. John's. The warmest was in Badger at 19, and then up across Labrador. Those temperatures in the single digits, except for Happy Valley Goose Bay, where you sat around 10 degrees as your daytime high today. So taking a look at the satellite radar, you can see that area of low pressure spinning offshore. And that is bringing all of that shower activity across Labrador, Northern Peninsula, and then the island as well, as we see some bands of showers working their way across eastern areas of the island at the moment. A little bit more organized in nature than they were a little bit earlier. So we'll see those over the next few hours, even along the south coast as well. You may see a few showers through the overnight. That's generally going to be the story as we head through tonight, with bands of showers pretty much continuing up across the big land, and then working their way maybe heavier at times in some areas towards the coast, west coast anyway, and overall just unsettled thanks to that area of low pressure. We're also looking at some pretty gusty winds up across coastal areas of Labrador as well, with those gusts between 70 even 80 kilometers per hour through the overnight tonight. Now that will generally continue right through the morning, showing some flurries showing up, particularly in those higher elevations, so don't be surprised to see that as well. Now, as far as rainfall amounts go, it's picking up on that potential for some snow, but generally looking at about 20 to 30 millimeters in some pockets for most areas along the coast, and otherwise just a trace to maybe 5 millimeters through the overnight. Now, as we head through tomorrow, the area of low pressure is still very much offshore, and we're going to see the winds ramp up through the day as well. So we're looking at those winds gusting between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Showers will continue as well for coastal areas of Labrador, and then same thing for the Northern Peninsula. Now, tomorrow will be generally unsettled across the island. Don't be surprised to see a few showers roll through, but we'll probably see the sun peak out just before sunset through central and parts of the west coast as well, and then eventually some clearing through the overnight. But we are seeing the potential for some flurries again for Lab West into the overnight, and then continuing right into Sunday morning. It looks like the best chance of seeing some flurries will be. And then some heavier bands of showers will work their way across the island as well on Sunday, and then making its way towards the eastern areas of the island as we get into the afternoon. So that's when the best chance of seeing those heavier showers will be for your Sunday. Taking a look at the temperatures tonight, they should generally sit into the single digits for most, pretty much, except for the eastern areas of the island, between 11 and 12 degrees as your overnight lows tonight. Again, those winds quite brisk out of the northwest, anywhere from 50 to 70 kilometers per hour for most of the big land, and then towards the coast, your west coast anyway, your winds will be out of the northwest between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now, as we head through tomorrow, those temperatures are going to stay quite chilly into the teens, about 15 degrees in St. John's. Again, we'll likely see the sun at times, but overall unsettled. Winds will be out of the west between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, even more so as we head into Sunday. Temperatures through central and along the south coast will be between 12 and 13 degrees through the day as well. And then as we head towards the west coast, those winds out of the north between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour, so a bit more breezy, and again unsettled through the day. Northern Peninsula hanging on to the single digits, barely 9-10 degrees will be your afternoon highs, and then coastal areas of Labrador about 8 or 9 degrees through the day. You're still going to see those periods of rain stick around, unfortunately. For Nain, showers the story for you, and then as we head towards the west coast in the morning, again, don't be surprised to see a few flurries. That should change over to rain in the afternoon as your temperatures climb to 8 degrees. But as we head through the weekend, the rest of it is looking fairly unsettled as well, and I'll get into those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, lobster fishermen in Nova Scotia took on an interesting project this summer, one that's taking up a lot of space. Jess Tudor has been busy collecting bones from a dead humpback whale that washed ashore in July. The CBC's Paul Pomater explains.
This is not something you see every day. It's a skeleton of a juvenile humpback whale found deceased off Briar Island this summer. Lobster fisherman Jess Tudor has been cleaning up the 150 bones he's collected from the mammal after it washed up in a very remote section of the island.
It was about probably about 2.5 kilometers each way, so it was like 5-kilometer trip for each time. And sometimes I put 3 trips to a day because I was always concerned that I was going to lose it.
Lose it refers to the high tides that batter the coast, and Tudor wanted to harvest as many bones as he could before the carcass drifted off. It was a gruesome task to perform in the heat of the summer.
You breathe through your mouth, very quickly you may throw up, but your nose, you can totally tell that you're designed to use your nose in stinky situations. It seems to be counterintuitive, but yeah, you can find out pretty quick, really.
Tudor was able to salvage most of the whale bones, but there was one that was tougher to bring home than the others. The skull of the whale weighs about 150 kilograms, and he needed help lifting it onto a small boat, and a lift at the wharf was used to get it onto the roof of his wife's van.
Well, with my husband, nothing surprises me. Most women get flowers and jewelry. I get whale carcasses and skulls on my minivan when I get home from work. It was a huge surprise. I was just so happy. I mean, what better way to say I love you than here's a whale skull, surprise!
Amy Tudor also has a thing for whales. She works on one of the many whale and birdwatching tour boats in the area that attract many tourists to this part of Digby County to see the ocean giants up close. Jess Tudor's driveway whale skeleton has been turning a lot of heads. These tourists from Germany stopped in to check it out.
Actually, we're on our way to the northern lighthouse, I guess. And then my partner just said, well, you have to stop here. It's maybe like an elephant skeleton or something like that. So we just parked around the corner.
Jess Tudor's love of whale bones is in his family genes. His mother owns the Briar Island Lodge, and she's a whale bone collector too. 2 large humpback whale jaw bones flank the front entrance, and inside there are many other whale bones for visitors to see.
We used to steal our father's boat and go out in the bay and get lost in the fog and watch the whales, and right from a very young age. So we were always used to whales and sharks and seals and that sort of thing, and it's just sort of part of our life. It's part of being by the ocean.
Jess Tudor believes this humpback whale was killed by a large vessel because a large part of one of the scapula bones was cut. Tudor believes more whales are killed by the propellers of large boats than fishing gear. He wants to piece together the skeleton into a form of educational art to honor the memory of Joe Howlett, a member of the Campobello Whale Rescue Team in New Brunswick. He died while saving an entangled North Atlantic right whale in 2017. Paul Pometer, CBC News, Briar Island.
Feels the same, and that's why we all queued up today, because I think it's the right thing to do, and it's us paying respect to our Queen.
Well, that's sports royalty leaving after viewing the Queen's coffin. David Beckham stood in line with everyone else. And what a line it was at 8.1 kilometers long. Officials say people could face a 24-hour wait. We'll have more coverage coming up. Long before the Second World War, before becoming a nurse in her native England, before marrying a Newfoundlander and settling in a country far from home, Enid Stevenson was a royal watcher. Now 101 years old, she sat down with CBC to share her views on the Queen's passing.
Well, I'm Enid Stevenson, originally Gates. My mother was really fond of the Prince of Wales, King Edward, when he was younger, but he was a real rascal. I remember when they were preparing for the war, and she joined the ATS, the Women's Auxiliary Service. I remember when she got the word that her father had passed away, the pictures that they were showing then. And well, even when she was quite young, and she dedicated herself to the country and the people. Yeah, and she really kept to that. She was, she did, I'm sure she did what she thought was best for the country. And they were here, and she had toured while she was down at the paper mill. And our craft group was quite active at that time, so we put together a display of crafts. But Philip was the one I used to do a clothespin people, I called them. And I had the Grenadier Guards painted, and he picked one up and stuck it on his nose, which I thought was real quick thinking. Surprising, she managed. Carried on for a long time. Did well. I think it shows that women can do it just as well as men can. I think, women are capable, and she demonstrated that, certainly. She was able to take charge and be organized and all that kind of thing. Yeah, she'd certainly be missed, I'm sure.
Well, it was an extraordinary sight today in London, a lineup that stretched for nearly 2 kilometers of mourners waiting to file past the Queen's coffin. Inside, the Queen's 4 children stood vigil. The CBC's Chris Brown reports.
Officers! The world is converging on London for the Queen's funeral, including soldiers from Canada and Commonwealth countries. The New Zealanders performed a haka, a ceremonial Maori dance, for the Prince and Princess of Wales at a military training centre near the city. 80 Canadian soldiers are here, representing units the Queen had a special connection to. And they're rehearsing through the night for their roles.
When we turned on to the main stretch and we saw the flags and you saw the palace at the other end, I mean, it got very real for everybody.
She was our queen, she was our sovereign, and for us to lead her to her final resting place, it means so much, and it's such an honor to be here.
Meanwhile, the huge crowds of people hoping to pay their respects to the Queen before the funeral continues to grow. This line, the queue of all queues, continues to move tens of thousands of people through the city to Westminster Hall and ultimately past the Queen's coffin. Entry to the line was temporarily halted earlier today but is now reopened, with organizers telling mourners they can expect waits of up to 24 hours. While some VIPs, such as former UK Prime Minister Theresa May, were allowed to skip the line, other famous Britons, such as soccer star David Beckham, waited with everyone else.
Everyone feels the same, and that's why we all queued up today, because I think it's the right thing to do.
King Charles, meanwhile, visited Wales, where someone gave him a pen as a joke, just in case, they said.
Oh God, I hate this.
A reference to his much publicized frustrations with the official pens that didn't work. He addressed the Parliament in Welsh, a language he learned before his investiture as a Prince of Wales in 1969.
I take up my new duties with immense gratitude for the privilege of having been able to serve as Prince of Wales.
By day's end, Charles and his siblings had returned to London for a more somber duty, another vigil at the Queen's side. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
During our ongoing coverage of Queen Elizabeth II, you've likely heard me say the monarch made 3 visits to the province during her reign, which is true, but she also visited back in 1951, just a year before becoming queen. 25-year-old Princess Elizabeth was on a cross-country tour that fall, and thanks to the National Film Board of Canada, we have some incredible footage of that visit, which included a stop in Portugal Cove. Have a look.
Now from the cruiser's deck, the royal couple gaze upon an island of rugged coasts and rugged people. Newfoundland, youngest of the 10 provinces of Canada. People from all over the great island wait for them as they leave the dockyards in the ancient seaport city of St. John's. And because the storm signals are up and a gale is rising, the Empress of Scotland must wait out in Conception Bay. Fishing craft and fisher folk from harbors all up and down the coast are gathering in Portugal Cove to give the royal guests an island farewell. They're here from Portagrave and Pooch Cove, from Topsail and Seal Cove and Calagrews on this morning of bitter wind and rain. Out from St. John's, down the steep roadway of Portugal Cove comes the royal car. And the islanders who have braved the gale for one brief glimpse of the princess and the duke are rewarded for their waiting. On the storm-lashed dock under the lowering clouds over Greeley's Hills and Old Man's Beard, warm hearts defy the cold winds and icy spray of the sea. The last stage of a journey of 15,000 miles is at hand. And as Elizabeth and Philip board the tender which will carry them to the waiting liner, the cheers of the islanders ring out above the storm. Newfoundland are the last to say goodbye. Goodbye for all of us. Goodbye to a sailor and his wife, homeward bound across the sea.
Wow, I I think I caught a chill just watching that. And those waves, my goodness, just incredible footage. That was an excerpt from the National Film Board of Canada's documentary Royal Journey, which followed the 5-week visit of then Princess Elizabeth to Canada in the fall of 1951.
Whether a home gardener, community garden, market gardener, farmer, forager, fisher, hunter, trapper.
Calling all growers and gatherers, one local nonprofit society wants to know how much food you're producing. From a bag of potatoes to a bucket of berries, the Food Producers Forum wants you to take a survey in the name of food security. Well, it's harvest time for lots of backyard vegetable gardeners, but as the popularity of growing your own fruits and vegetables grows, have you ever wondered how much food is actually being produced in this province? It's a question one local nonprofit group would love to answer, but it needs your help to do it.
Well, as a group, we've been on the go for about 2.5 years, and one of the strangest things is that nobody really knows how much food is being grown and gathered in our province. We have statistics for the big farms that are part of the Federation, but At the same time, there are thousands of home gardeners. There's more than 100 community gardens. There's the food fishery. I talked to a man at the farmer's market this past weekend who sells $10,000 worth of berries. I know a Syrian fellow, Ahmad, who has a garden in the backyard of the Mercy Center on Mount Sio Road. He's got baskets and bins full of zucchini and beans and cucumbers, and he's giving most of it away to the local community. There's literally thousands of pounds of food being grown and gathered under the radar in this province.
Can you talk about more about the value of knowing that? Like, what is the value of knowing how much food is being grown? And we're talking just people's like backyard gardens as well,
Absolutely.
right?
Backyard gardens, small scale market producers who don't register as farms, the food fishery, the berry picking and the mushrooms and all kinds of wild crops. If we don't know that, we can't build on it. If we don't have a baseline for what people are actually growing, then we can't improve on that already existing capacity. And that's where the potential lies for food security, just like it did back in the days of the outports when people had their gardens and their fish and the occasional seal. In a sense, it's all new, but it's all old. We want everybody involved in food production, whether a home gardener, community garden, market gardener, farmer, forager, fisher, hunter, trapper, to go to our website, foodproducersforum.com, where they will find the link to the survey and then go fill it out. It's a really powerful survey, but it only takes 20 minutes to do it. And it will ask you questions about what you're growing or gathering, how you're doing it, what your needs are, how that food is being shared out or sold or distributed. And the survey is anonymous. We won't know who you are when you're done, but we will know what you're growing and gathering.
And even here at the CBC, we have our own beds going,
Oregano,
so maybe we should fill out your survey.
Vegetable marrow. I am so impressed. I'm so pleased. Yes.
Some squash going there. So yeah. So anyone who's growing anything, you want to hear from them and fill out the survey.
This is the hard part, is we need people not just to take the survey, but to spread the word. The thing about Food Producers Forum is that it's all about community. It's all about partnerships. I can't believe what we've accomplished in 2 years and the projects we've been able to launch for single parents here in St. John's, for food producers at the community level right across the province, and now a new community garden on the coast of Labrador. And the key to it is that everybody matters. Everybody has a role to play. We need your information. Please help us.
All right, that's a great pitch. Dan Rubin, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, earlier we showed you a bird's eye view of our newsroom. Well, check this out. It's a landing at St. John's International Airport. It was taken last night from PAL pilot Wanda Clark. It's a front row seat as the sun sets on Thursday. Clark posts lots of videos like this one on Twitter. Beautiful. Let's find out who's celebrating, starting with this lovely couple. Happy 51st anniversary to Clyde and Shirley Parsons of Springdale. Wishing Bud and Chris Welshman a happy 50th anniversary. Happy 64th anniversary to Ernest and Elizabeth Wheeler of Mount Pearl. Best wishes to Elizabeth and Harlow Snippen on their 56th anniversary. Congratulations to Bob and Marg Shepherd from Bishops Falls, who are celebrating their 58th anniversary. Wishing Gerald and Janice Green a happy 50th anniversary. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Yvonne and Heber Young of Mount Moriah. Walter and Anita Pierce of St. John's are celebrating 58 years of marriage. Congratulations. Happy 60th anniversary to Jake and Violet King of Broad Cove, Conception Bay. It's a 59th anniversary for Sid and Evelyn Butt in Mount Pearl. Congratulations. Best wishes to Dominic and Madonna Fitzgerald of Southeast Placentia. They've been married 58 years. Happy anniversary to Doreen and Will Parr of Port Hope Simpson, Labrador, who are celebrating 50 years together. Happy 57th anniversary to Mary and Jeremiah Osmond of Channel, Port-aux-Basque. Happy anniversary to Wayne and Daphne Edwards of Harbor Lacou. They've been married 50 years. Happy 56th anniversary to John and Mary Cox of Clark's Beach. Anniversary greetings going out to Cyril and Sandra Walsh of Fairyland. It's their 55th anniversary today. Happy anniversary to Andrew and Betty Anderson of Rose Blanche, who are celebrating their 57th anniversary. Happy 55th anniversary to Louis and Pansy Jewer of Springdale. Russell and Kathleen Martin of Wabush are celebrating 56 years of marriage today. Happy 63rd anniversary to Gerald and Hazel Newberry of Mount Pearl. Happy 55th wedding anniversary today to Harry and Kay Smith of Placentia. Now to some birthdays. Birthday greetings going out to Ruth Sanders on her 90th birthday. Happy 90th birthday as well to Sybil Blackmore of St. John's. Alice Goodyear of Corner Brook celebrated her 103rd birthday on Tuesday. Hope you had a wonderful day. Francis Lane of Anglee, now living in Lewisport, is celebrating his 90th birthday. Isabel McKinnon, lovingly known as Old Nan, just turned 98. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Teresa Fifield. She's turning 94. Happy 91st birthday to Annie O'Rourke of Admiral's Beach, now living in St. John's. Wallace Henry Ward is celebrating his 90th birthday today. Wishing Nellie Collier a happy 92nd birthday. And a happy 100th birthday to William Snow of Coley's Point, now living in Barrie, Ontario. And birthday wishes to Catherine Coombs of Heart's Desire, who turns 92 this Sunday.
Not exactly looking like the nicest weekend. It will be a bit unsettled through Saturday and then even into Sunday. That will generally continue. The reason for that is an area of low pressure offshore. We may even see some snow in the mix as well for parts of Labrador, particularly in the higher elevations through the day on Sunday. But the chances of showers will continue right across the board for the island. Some heavier showers likely in the afternoon for the eastern half of the island. Then we'll see some clearing as we head towards the evening hours, but generally staying unsettled up across the big land. Temperatures are going to stay cool as well, between 7 and 10 degrees for you. Along the strait, you may see a few peaks of sun through the day, but overall temperatures into the teens across the island as well. Anywhere from 10 to 16 degrees, the warmest temperatures will be across the Avalon. Now, as we head into Monday, things will eventually start to clear out. Temperatures, though, are going to stay cool. This is below seasonal, below where we should be sitting this time of year, about 14 degrees in St. John's under a mix of sun and cloud. And then the best chance of showers will be towards the west coast. Same thing up across Labrador, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, around 10 degrees as your daytime high. Taking a look at the long range forecast, it's going to stay cool. Temperatures in the teens, with the chance of showers returning both Tuesday and Wednesday. Overnight lows dipping to the single digits right through Tuesday. And then actually we're going to see those temperatures warm up as we head into Wednesday. So they're going to stay fairly steady. For central Newfoundland, you're looking at temperatures in the teens as well. Unsettled as we get into next week for western Newfoundland. And then as far as Labrador goes, some clearing skies for your Monday. Tuesday looks beautiful. A few showers will show up on Wednesday. Then a nice stretch of weather for western Labrador. I guess we'll leave you tonight with the weather photo. Sun rising over Herring Cove. Thank you so much to Emma for that shot. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, rather, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, another beautiful shot. Sun rising. We get a lot of sunsets, not a whole lot of sunrises.
Now they're happening later and later now.
It's so true. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. Have a great weekend.
Good night.